में एक लाइब्रेरी है
ओके
एंड इनसाइड दैट लाइब्रेरी देयर इज अ सिंगल सुपर डिटेल्ड ब्लूप्रिंट
वो ब्लूप्रिंट डिसाइड करता है कि आपकी आंखों का रंग कैसा होगा, आपके बाल कैसे होंगे.
एंड इवन व्हाई सम मेडिसिन्स वर्क लाइक मैजिक फॉर यू बट नॉट फॉर योर फ्रेंड.
दैट ब्लूप्रिंट इज डीएनए.
एग्जैक्टली, डीएनए. कूल है ना. आज हम इस ब्लूप्रिंट की दुनिया में एक सुपर डिटेल्ड सफर पर निकलने वाले हैं.
आई एम एक्साइटेड.
और दोस्त, इस ऑसम जर्नी को और भी बेटर बनाने के लिए जल्दी से वो सब्सक्राइब बटन क्लिक कर दो, लाइक करना बिल्कुल मत भूलना, और हाँ, दैट नोटिफिकेशन बेल.
टर्न इट ऑन.
हाँ, ताकि आप हमारे साथ नॉलेज के हर एडवेंचर में शामिल हो सकें.
बिल्कुल. आज हमारा मिशन है टू अनपैक द कॉम्प्लेक्स वर्ल्ड ऑफ ह्यूमन जेनेटिक्स.
राइट.
हम इसके अलग अलग ब्रांचेस से शुरू करेंगे. देन विल डाइव डीप इनटू द जेनेटिक मटेरियल इटसेल्फ, डीएनए.
ओके.
विल अंडरस्टैंड हाउ ट्रेट्स आर पास्ड फ्रॉम वन जनरेशन टू द नेक्स्ट, और उन टूल्स को भी एक्सप्लोर करेंगे जिन्होंने जेनेटिक्स की स्टडी को कंप्लीटली रेवोल्यूशनाइज कर दिया है.
एग्जैक्टली. तो बेसिकली हमारा लर्निंग मैप कुछ ऐसा दिखेगा. First, branches of human genetics, the different specializations like biochemical, immuno, and population genetics.
Second, the genetic material of man, हमारे डीएनए का स्ट्रक्चर एंड इट्स अमेजिंग पैकेजिंग.
Third, genetic phenomena.
The interesting rules of inheritance, जैसे linkage and crossing over. फिर fourth, tools of genetic study, modern techniques like PCR and DNA profiling.
और आखिर में,
And finally, the cell and cell division, a quick but important look at mitosis and meiosis.
sounds like a solid plan.
तो चलो, let's begin this amazing journey.
Branches of human genetics, broad micro theme, exploring the different fields of genetic study. चलो, सबसे पहले शुरू करते हैं biochemical and clinical genetics.
Right. So ये फील्ड इस बात पर फोकस करती है कि जीन्स कैसे एंजाइम्स क्रिएट करते हैं.
Okay.
और जब इन जीन्स में कोई ग्लिच आ जाता है, इट लीड्स टू इनबॉर्न एरर्स ऑफ मेटाबॉलिज्म, बेसिकली इनहेरिटेड मेटाबॉलिक डिसऑर्डर्स.
So simple words में, it's the connection between your genes and your body's chemistry.
बिल्कुल.
I love a good analogy. तो चलो, एक यूज करते हैं. Imagine तुम्हारी बॉडी एक हाईटेक कार फैक्ट्री है.
ठीक है.
Enzymes are the specialized workers on the assembly line. अगर एक वर्कर, फॉर एग्जाम्पल जो इंजन इंस्टॉल करता है, यानी एक एंजाइम, सडनली छुट्टी पर चला जाए,
तो पूरी असेंबली लाइन रुक जाती है.
एग्जैक्टली. ऐसा ही फिनाइल कीटोन्यूरिया में होता है, जहां एक मिसिंग एंजाइम कैन लीड टू सीरियस इश्यूज जैसे मेंटल रिटार्डेशन अगर उसे टाइम पर ट्रीट ना किया जाए.
दैट्स अ परफेक्ट एनालॉजी. और इसकी डिस्कवरी की स्टोरी एक डिटेक्टिव नॉवल जैसी है. द फर्स्ट क्लू केम इन 1901 फ्रॉम सर आर्चिबाल्ड गैरोड.
अच्छा.
ही वाज स्टडीइंग अ रेयर कंडीशन, एल्कैप्टोनूरिया, जहां पेशेंट का यूरिन हवा के कांटेक्ट में आने पर डार्क हो जाता था. बहुत अजीब था.
वाओ.
ही नोटिस कि ये उन बच्चों में कॉमन था जिनके पेरेंट्स कजिन्स थे, और उन्होंने ब्रिलियंट तरीके से इसे इनबॉर्न एरर ऑफ मेटाबॉलिज्म का नाम दिया. ये एक ब्रेक थ्रू था.
उसने सीधे बॉडी के केमिकल प्रोसेस को हेरिडिटी से जोड़ दिया.
बिल्कुल. ही कनेक्टेड इट डायरेक्टली.
सो गैरोट ने क्राइम सीन तो ढूंढ लिया, पर कल्प्रिट कौन था ये नहीं पता चला.
हु फिगर्ड दैट आउट?
द कल्प्रिट्स मतलब द मैकेनिज्म वाज अनकवर्ड अबाउट 40 इयर्स लेटर बाय बीडल एंड टेटम.
ओके.
उन्होंने ब्रेड मोल्ड न्यूरोस्पोरा क्रेसा पर एक्सपेरिमेंट किया और वन जीन वन एंजाइम हाइपोथेसिस को प्रूव किया. वन जीन वन एंजाइम मतलब एक जीन एक स्पेसिफिक एंजाइम बनाने के लिए रिस्पांसिबल है.
प्रिसाइसली. ये एक माइंड ब्लोइंग इनसाइट थी जिसके लिए उन्हें 1958 में नोबेल प्राइज मिला. एंड सडनली गैरेड्स मिस्ट्री मेड सेंस. एल्कैप्टोन्यूरिया में वो डार्क यूरिन एक मिसिंग वर्कर की वजह से था, एक फॉल्टी एंजाइम कॉज्ड बाय अ फॉल्टी जीन.
एग्जैक्टली.
वाओ.
तो इसके बाद और किस तरह की फैक्ट्री लाइन प्रॉब्लम्स उन्हें मिली?
Once they knew what to look for, उन्हें बहुत सारी मिली. For instance, in the amino acid department, defects हैं जैसे albinism, जहाँ pigment making worker ही missing है.
Right.
Carbohydrate department में you have galactosemia, जहाँ sugar processing worker absent है, leading to cataracts. There are even transport protein defects like familial hypercholesterolemia.
जहाँ कोलेस्ट्रॉल को मूव करने वाला सिस्टम गड़बड़ है, causing early heart disease.
सही.
This brings us to one of the most famous examples, right? Sickle cell anemia. ये इस स्टोरी में कहाँ फिट होता है?
It fits perfectly in 1949. Linus Pauling ने sickle cell hemoglobin को एक molecular disease कहा.
A molecular disease. हाँ. फिर 1957 में इंग्रम ने exact error को pinpoint किए. Just one amino acid, valine, was in the place of glutamic acid. Just one.
Just one. सोचो, एक single letter typo in a blueprint of billions, और it results in such a devastating disease. This solidified the link between a tiny change in a gene and a major change in health.
Okay, let's take a pause here for some questions. First, आपने mention किया कि गैरोड ने देखा कि एल्कैप्टोन्यूरिया कॉमन था जब पेरेंट्स कजिन्स थे. He called it a recessive disorder. आसान भाषा में इसका मतलब क्या है? अगर पेरेंट्स को नहीं है तो बच्चे को कैसे हो सकता है?
Great question. ऐसे सोचो, एक recessive disorder के लिए आपको faulty gene की 2 copies चाहिए to show the disease.
Okay, 2 copies.
The parents are carriers. उनके पास एक faulty copy है और एक healthy copy. हेल्दी कॉपी काम कर लेती है, इसलिए उन्हें डिजीज नहीं होती.
Right.
पर 1 in 4 चांस है कि उनका बच्चा दोनों से फॉल्टी कॉपी इनहेरिट कर ले, तब आके प्रॉब्लम दिखती है.
समझे. Got it. Second question. ये one gene one enzyme hypothesis. Is it always true? क्या ये एक fixed rule है?
It was the foundational rule, but अब हम जानते हैं कि it's a bit more complex. कभी-कभी एक जीन प्रोटीन का सिर्फ एक पार्ट बनाता है और मल्टीपल पार्ट्स एक साथ आते हैं.
अच्छा.
Don't make proteins at all. वो बस दूसरे जीन्स को रेगुलेट करते हैं. But the core idea कि जीन्स में प्रोटीन्स के इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं is still absolutely fundamental. याद रखना.
Okay, back to sickle cell. How does changing just one single amino acid cause such a huge problem?
Because it's all about structure. वो एक चेंज हीमोग्लोबिन मॉलिक्यूल के 3D शेप को बदल देता है.
Okay.
This new faulty shape causes the red blood cells to collapse into a rigid sickle or crescent shape. और ये सिकल शेप्ड सेल्स आराम से फ्लो नहीं कर पाते, वो ब्लड वेसल्स में फंस जाते हैं, causing blockages, pain and damage.
So a tiny change with catastrophic structural consequences.
बिल्कुल.
You also mentioned the Philadelphia chromosome in leukemia. Is that a new chromosome that was discovered in Philadelphia?
Not exactly, though the name suggests that. It's actually a translocation. Imagine दो books हैं, chromosome 9 and chromosome 22.
Okay.
एक पेज chromosome 22 से फटकर chromosome 9 में जाके चिपक जाता है. This abnormal exchange of genetic material creates a new fusion gene जो uncontrolled cell growth trigger करता है, leading to cancer.
Final question on this. The sources mention the term polymorphism in blood proteins. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's neither. Polymorphism का मतलब है many forms. मतलब एक ही जीन के multiple different versions या alleles population में exist करते हैं.
So just diversity?
It's simply a measure of genetic diversity. और ये diversity evolution के लिए raw material है. So that's cool, ना? Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. Beadle and Tatum proved the one gene one enzyme hypothesis.
तो हमने देखा कि जीन्स हमारे अंदर की केमिस्ट्री को कैसे कंट्रोल करते हैं, पर हमारी बॉडी बाहर से आने वाले दुश्मनों, वायरसेस, बैक्टीरिया से कैसे लड़ती है? क्या इसका भी कोड हमारे डीएनए में है?
बिल्कुल. And this brings us to our next topic.
Immunogenetics.
This branch studies the genetics behind our immune system. हमारी बॉडी की यूनिक डिफेंस प्रोग्रामिंग हमारी जीन्स में लिखी हुई है.
Okay.
इसका एक परफेक्ट एवरीडे एग्जांपल है आपका ब्लड टाइप ए, बी, एबी या ओ. ये आपके रेड ब्लड सेल्स के सरफेस पर स्पेसिफिक एंटीजेंस की प्रेजेंस या एब्सेंस से डिसाइड होता है, व्हिच आर कंट्रोल्ड बाय योर जीन्स.
The story here began with the discovery of blood groups, right?
वो पहली बार था जब हमने इंडिविजुअल जेनेटिक डिफरेंसेस को सेलुलर लेवल पर देखा.
Exactly. लैंडस्टाइनर ने ABO blood groups डिस्कवर किए और बाद में RH सिस्टम डिस्कवर हुआ. Today we know of over 400 different blood group systems.
400.
हाँ, but what's even more fascinating is the HLA system. इसका फुल फॉर्म है ह्यूमन ल्यूकोसाइट एंटीजन.
HLA.
ये ऑर्गन ट्रांसप्लांटेशन के लिए सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट सिस्टम है. दिस जेनेटिक लोकस इज सो कॉम्प्लेक्स एंड वेरिएबल कि दो अनरिलेटेड पीपल के बीच परफेक्ट HLA मैच ढूंढना ऑलमोस्ट इम्पॉसिबल है.
Wow.
जितना क्लोज मैच उतना कम ऑर्गन रिजेक्शन का चांस.
So if it makes organ transplants so difficult, why does this HLA variability even exist? इसका पर्पस क्या है?
वन लीडिंग थियरी इसकी ये इम्यून सर्वेलेंस में हेल्प करता है.
Immune surveillance.
ओके, इमेजिन योर बॉडी इज अ सिटी और आपके इम्यून सेल्स पुलिस हैं. कैंसरस या म्यूटेंट सेल्स क्रिमिनल्स की तरह हैं जो भीड़ में घुलने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. अ हाईली डाइवर्स HLA सिस्टम एक ऐसी पुलिस फोर्स की तरह है जहां हर ऑफिसर डिस्गाइज डिटेक्शन में मास्टर है. वो हर टाइप के क्रिमिनल को पहचान सकते हैं. दिस डाइवर्सिटी माइट बी अ नेचुरल डिफेंस मैकेनिज्म टू रिकॉग्नाइज एंड डिस्ट्रॉय कैंसर सेल्स बिफोर दे कैन कॉज हार्म.
And what about antibodies? The sources mention their variability too.
Yes, the variability of immunoglobulins or antibodies is incredible. वो 5 क्लासेस में आते हैं: IgD, IgE, IgG, IgA and IgM.
Okay.
उन्हें Y-shaped molecular missile समझो. The tips of the Y are the variable ends और यहीं पर मैजिक होता है. आपकी बॉडी इन टिप्स की virtually unlimited variety बना सकती है to bind to any specific invader it encounters.
Okay, so many questions here. First, अगर HLA सिस्टम इतना यूनिक है, तो ऑर्गन ट्रांसप्लांट्स एवर सक्सीड कैसे होते हैं? परफेक्ट मैचेस तो बहुत रेयर होंगे.
They are. इसलिए डॉक्टर सबसे पहले इमीडिएट फैमिली में डोनर ढूंढते हैं जहां क्लोज इनफ मैच के चांसेस ज्यादा होते हैं.
Right.
फॉर द रिमेनिंग मिसमैच पेशेंट्स को इम्यूनोसप्रेसेंट ड्रग्स दिए जाते हैं. ये ड्रग्स बेसिकली इम्यून सिस्टम को कहते हैं, हे काम डाउन, दिस न्यू ऑर्गन इज अ फ्रेंड, रिड्यूसिंग द रिस्क ऑफ रिजेक्शन.
And how do our bodies achieve this unlimited antibody diversity? Do we have unlimited genes to make them?
एक्सेलेंट क्वेश्चन. नहीं, हमारे पास अनलिमिटेड जीन्स नहीं है. इंस्टेड वी हैव अ ब्रिलियंट सिस्टम. इमेजिन आपके पास V, D और J जीन सेगमेंट्स के लिए लेगो ब्लॉक्स के 3 बॉक्सेस हैं.
Okay, Lego blocks.
जब भी आपको एक नया एंटीबॉडी बनाना होता है, आपकी बॉडी हर बॉक्स से रैंडमली एक ब्लॉक उठाकर उन्हें जोड़ देती है. इस प्रोसेस को VDJ रिकॉम्बिनेशन कहते हैं, and it can create billions of unique combinations from a limited number of gene parts. It's genetic mix and match at its finest.
You mentioned the RH system. Why is it so important, especially during pregnancy?
This is critical. अगर एक RH नेगेटिव मदर एक RH पॉजिटिव बेबी कैरी कर रही है, तो उसकी बॉडी बेबी के RH पॉजिटिव ब्लड सेल्स को फॉरेन इन्वेडर्स समझकर उनके अगेंस्ट एंटीबॉडीज बना सकती हैं. ये यूजुअली फर्स्ट प्रेगनेंसी में प्रॉब्लम नहीं करता, बट इन अ सेकंड प्रेगनेंसी विद अनदर RH पॉजिटिव बेबी, वो प्री-मेड एंटीबॉडीज प्लेसेंटा क्रॉस करके बेबी के रेड ब्लड सेल्स को अटैक कर सकती हैं, व्हिच कैन बी वेरी डेंजरस.
Let's go back to immune surveillance. Can you explain that idea a bit more?
जरूर. Think of your HLA molecules as ID card display cases on the surface of all your cells. वो कॉन्स्टेंटली सेल के अंदर से प्रोटीन के बिट्स डिस्प्ले करते रहते हैं.
Okay.
अगर एक सेल कैंसरस हो जाता है, वो एबनॉर्मल प्रोटीन्स बनाने लगता है और उस एबनॉर्मल प्रोटीन का एक पीस HLA केस में डिस्प्ले हो जाता है. A passing immune T cell एक सिक्योरिटी गार्ड की तरह है जो IDs चेक कर रहा है.
Right.
It sees the abnormal protein and says, "Wait, you're not supposed to be here," and then it destroys the cancerous cell. More HLA diversity means you can display a wider variety of protein bits, making it harder for cancer to hide.
And just to be clear, what's the basic genetics behind the simple ABO blood group system? Basically, एक जीन है, BI जीन, जिसके 3 मेन वर्जन्स या एलील्स हैं, IA, IB and I. Okay?
IA और IB I पर dominant हैं, but they are co-dominant with each other. So, your genotype, The combination of alleles you get from your parents, जैसे IAIA या IAI, determines your phenotype, which is your actual blood type. इस केस में type A. Okay, practice this with me. The HLA system is responsible for histocompatibility, which is critical for organ transplantation.
Immunogenetics explains the genetic basis of our unique defense system, which is the very definition of our biological individuality.
Wow. From our internal chemistry to our external defense, genes control everything. But सबसे बड़े miracle का क्या? How a single cell becomes a complete human. ये भी genetically controlled होगा?
Of course. And that leads us to our next field.
Developmental genetics.
This field studies how a single fertilized cell, a zygote, develops into a complex organism like a human. It explores how genes control this entire process.
इसका एक great visual है. Caterpillar का butterfly में transform होना. वो पूरा process genes के on-off होने का एक perfectly timed dance है.
बिल्कुल. ऐसे ही in our own development, genes decide करते हैं कि कौन सा सेल हार्ट सेल बनेगा और कौन सा ब्रेन सेल बनेगा.
It really is the greatest miracle of life. The sources say कि साइंटिस्ट पहले सोचते थे कि जैसे-जैसे सेल्स डिवाइड और स्पेशलाइज होते हैं, वो कुछ जेनेटिक इन्फॉर्मेशन लूज कर देते हैं.
Yes, that was an early idea, but it was proven wrong by a classic experiment in the 1960s by John Gooden.
अच्छा.
He took a nucleus from a specialized skin cell of a toad और उसे एक toad egg में transplant किया, जिसका अपना nucleus निकाल दिया गया था.
And then
And amazingly, that egg developed into a complete healthy toad. इसने प्रूव किया कि हर स्पेशलाइज्ड सेल में कंप्लीट जेनेटिक ब्लूप्रिंट होता है, पूरा ऑर्गेनिज्म बनाने की सारी इंफॉर्मेशन. This concept is called totipotency.
So if every cell has the full blueprint, फिर skin cells और brain cells अलग-अलग कैसे होते हैं? Why don't skin cells start thinking?
The answer is gene regulation. Think of the DNA blueprint as a massive cookbook.
Okay.
हर सेल के पास पूरी बुक है, पर एक स्किन सेल सिर्फ हाउ टू बी अ स्किन सेल वाले चैप्टर्स पढ़ता है. हाउ टू बी अ ब्रेन सेल वाले चैप्टर्स टाइटली शट रहते हैं.
Right.
Cytoplasmic factors and epigenetic markers decide which genes are on and which are off in each cell. हम इन genes को दो टाइप्स में ग्रुप कर सकते हैं.
And those are housekeeping genes and luxury genes, right?
करेक्ट. हाउसकीपिंग जीन्स ऑलमोस्ट सभी सेल्स में एक्टिव रहते हैं क्योंकि वो सर्वाइवल के लिए जरूरी बेसिक फंक्शंस कंट्रोल करते हैं, जैसे सेल मेम्ब्रेन बनाना.
Okay.
लग्जरी जीन्स ऑन द अदर हैंड आर स्पेशलाइज्ड जीन्स जो सिर्फ स्पेसिफिक सेल्स में ऑन होते हैं टू परफॉर्म अ यूनिक फंक्शन. जैसे डाइजेस्टिव एंजाइम्स बनाने वाला जीन सिर्फ स्टमक सेल्स में एक्टिव होगा, नॉट इन योर आई सेल्स.
The sources also mention some master control genes.
What are those? You're talking about the homeotic genes or Hox genes. These are the architects of the body plan.
Architects.
हाँ, they decide the fundamental layout, कहाँ head होगा, कहाँ limbs होंगे and what goes in between. They were first studied in fruit flies, Drosophila, but we have them too. They contain a highly conserved DNA sequence called the homeobox. जब इन मास्टर जीन्स में म्यूटेशंस होते हैं या कोई एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर डेवलपमेंट में इंटरफेयर करता है तो बर्थ डिफेक्ट्स हो सकते हैं. These external agents are called teratogens. Okay, so many fascinating concepts. First question, how is John Gurdon's toad experiment related to modern day cloning like Dolly the sheep?
Gurdon's experiment laid the foundational principle for all cloning. The technique used to create Dolly, called somatic cell nuclear transfer, is a direct and more advanced application of the same idea he demonstrated in toads.
So he was a pioneer?
An absolute pioneer.
Second question, you said a skin cell has the full DNA, but the brain-making genes are switched off. How does a cell permanently switch off a gene? This happens through a process called epigenetic silencing. DNA सीक्वेंस खुद नहीं बदलता, बट केमिकल टैग्स DNA या उसके प्रोटीन्स पर ऐड हो जाते हैं.
Chemical tags.
हाँ, ये टैग्स डू नॉट रीड साइंस की तरह काम करते हैं, मेकिंग दैट पार्ट ऑफ द DNA ब्लूप्रिंट inaccessible. सो इन्फॉर्मेशन वही है, पर उससे सेल की मशीनरी पढ़ नहीं सकती.
That makes sense. Now, about these Hox genes, why are they so important? What happens if there's a mistake in them?
Because they are the master architects. A mistake in a Hox gene can have bizarre and dramatic consequences. For example, fruit flies में एक specific Hox gene mutation से उसके head से legs grow हो सकते हैं जहाँ antennae होने चाहिए थे.
What? Seriously?
Seriously, in humans, mutations in Hox genes are linked to various developmental disorders, including limb malformations and certain types of leukemia.
You use the term totipotency. Does that mean any cell from my body can be used to create a whole new me?
Theoretically, early embryonic cells, stem cells, are totipotent. An adult cell, like a skin cell, has lost this ability naturally. However, lab में scientists adult cells को reprogram कर सकते हैं to become pluripotent, induced pluripotent stem cells.
Meaning they can become any type of cell.
Exactly. But creating a whole human is ethically and technically far more complex and is not done.
The sources list the rubella virus as a teratogen. Why is a rubella infection so dangerous during pregnancy?
Because the rubella virus is one of the few things that can cross the placental barrier and directly infect the developing fetus.
Oh.
अगर ये organ formation के critical stages में होता है, it can interfere with the genetic instructions, leading to what's called congenital rubella syndrome, which can cause severe birth defects like deafness, blindness, and heart problems. Okay, everyone, let's practice this concept. Hox genes are master control genes that specify the body plan.
Developmental genetics explores how a precise symphony of gene regulation orchestrates the incredible journey from a single cell to a fully formed organism.
This is incredible. Genes build us, defend us, and run our internal chemistry. पर medicines का क्या जो हम लेते हैं? Does our DNA affect how they work?
It absolutely does, and that brings us to a super interesting field.
Pharmacogenetics.
ये term Vogel ने 1959 में introduce किया था. This field studies how our genetic variations affect our response to drugs. सिंपल भाषा में एक ही दवाई अलग-अलग लोगों पर अलग-अलग असर क्यों करती है.
बिल्कुल.
इसका एक सिंपल एग्जांपल कैफीन है. कुछ लोग रात को एस्प्रेसो पी के आराम से सो जाते हैं, while others सुबह एक कप पीते हैं और पूरा दिन वायर्ड रहते हैं.
Right.
This difference is often due to the genes that control how quickly your body metabolizes caffeine.
So the idea of one size fits all doesn't really work for medicine.
Not at all. And pharmacogenetics is paving the way for personalized medicine. डॉक्टर्स ने हमेशा नोटिस किया है कि ड्रग रिस्पॉन्सेज वेरी करते हैं, but this field explains the why behind it.
Okay.
There are some pathways that are now well understood. For example, isoniazid, एक टीबी की दवाई. कुछ लोग रैपिड इनएक्टिवेटर्स होते हैं और ड्रग को जल्दी क्लियर कर देते हैं, while others are slow inactivators और ड्रग उनके सिस्टम में ज्यादा देर तक रहती है. This is a genetic difference.
What are some other classic examples?
Another one is succinylcholine, a muscle relaxant used in anesthesia. कुछ लोगों में इसको तोड़ने वाला एंजाइम जेनेटिकली डिफिशिएंट होता है, making them extremely sensitive to it. Then there's Primaquine, an anti-malarial drug. In people with a deficiency in an enzyme called G6PD, this drug can cause their red blood cells to break down, a condition called hemolytic anemia.
And this applies to modern medicines as well, right? Like in cancer treatments.
Yes, absolutely. For example, thiopurine drugs cancer treatment में use होती हैं.
बिल्कुल.
About 0.3% of the population में TMPT enzyme की deficiency होती है,
जी.
जो इन drugs को metabolize करने के लिए चाहिए.
So for them,
For them, a standard dose can be highly toxic. Then there are pathways we don't fully understand yet. For example, कुछ लोगों को anticoagulant coumarin का 20 गुना normal dose चाहिए होता है.
20 times.
हाँ, or there's malignant hypopyrexia, a rare but deadly reaction to anesthesia, where body temperature skyrockets. It's an autosomal dominant condition.
The source also mentions alcohol. How do genetics play a role there?
Alcohol metabolism is a great example. दो enzymes ADH and ALDH alcohol को break down करते हैं. In many Oriental populations, ADH gene में एक common genetic variation की वजह से alcohol बहुत जल्दी acetaldehyde नाम के substance में convert हो जाता है.
And that causes?
This buildup of acetaldehyde leads to unpleasant symptoms like facial flushing and nausea. इसका रियल वर्ल्ड इम्पैक्ट ये है कि डॉक्टर्स अब जेनेटिक टेस्ट्स यूज करके प्रेडिक्ट कर सकते हैं कि एक पेशेंट कुछ ड्रग्स पर कैसे रिएक्ट करेगा.
Allowing them to choose the right drug and the right dose from the start.
बिल्कुल. Fascinating. So, first question. Does this mean that in the future we'll need a genetic test before taking any medicine?
It's definitely heading that way, especially for powerful drugs with serious side effects, जैसे cancer chemotherapy.
Okay.
It will make treatments much more effective and safer. हर simple painkiller के लिए नहीं, but for critical treatments, yes, it's the future.
You mentioned slow inactivators for the TB drug. What does that mean exactly? Is it a bad thing?
It's not inherently bad, but it's important to know. इसका मतलब है कि ड्रग आपकी बॉडी में higher concentration पर ज़्यादा देर तक रहती है. Okay.
This can increase the drug's effectiveness, but it also significantly increases the risk of side effects. So a slow inactivator को toxicity के बिना same benefit के लिए बहुत कम डोज चाहिए होगा.
For people with G6PD deficiency, is it only the drug Primaquine that causes a problem?
नहीं. And this is a great ecogenetics link we'll discuss later. उन्हें कुछ और drugs और even कुछ foods जैसे fava beans से भी severe reaction हो सकता है.
So anything that causes oxidative stress in the red blood cells?
Correct.
You described malignant hyperpyrexia as an autosomal dominant condition. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. ऑटोसोमल मतलब जीन एक नॉन सेक्स क्रोमोसोम पर है. डोमिनेंट मतलब आपको कंडीशन मैनिफेस्ट होने के लिए फॉल्टी जीन की सिर्फ एक कॉपी इनहेरिट करने की जरूरत है, सिर्फ एक पेरेंट से.
Unlike a recessive condition where you need 2 copies?
Exactly.
Is there an evolutionary reason for the genetic difference in alcohol metabolism?
There's a theory for it. जिन कल्चर्स में अल्कोहल कंजम्पशन हजारों सालों से कॉमन रहा है, जैसे यूरोप में, वहाँ एफिशिएंट मेटाबॉलिज्म के लिए जीन्स सिलेक्ट हुए होंगे.
Makes sense.
जिन कल्चर्स में अल्कोहल हिस्टोरिकली कम कॉमन था, जैसे ईस्ट एशिया के कुछ पार्ट्स में, वहाँ ऐसा सिलेक्टिव प्रेशर नहीं था, so variations that lead to less efficient metabolism remain common.
Let's practice this one. Pharmacogenetics studies how genetic variations influence our response to drugs.
Pharmacogenetics is the key to personalized medicine, tailoring drugs to fit our unique genetic makeup, not the other way around.
Okay, we've looked at genetics inside the individual. But what about genetics across entire groups of people?
That's where the next branch comes in.
Population genetics. This branch studies the frequency of genes and alleles in a population और वो forces जो time के साथ उन frequencies को change करते हैं.
Okay.
एक important concept यहाँ है gene pool. ये एक population के सभी genes का complete set है. Basically, evolution on a micro scale is simply a change in the frequencies of alleles in this gene pool.
And the foundation of this field is the Hardy-Weinberg principle, right? What exactly is it?
Correct. The Hardy-Weinberg principle, developed in 1908, is a mathematical model. It states कि एक ideal population में जहाँ mutation, selection, genetic drift, migration और non-random mating जैसी forces absent हैं.
Which is a hypothetical situation.
Yes, a hypothetical one. वहाँ genetic variation एक generation से दूसरी generation तक constant रहेगा. The population is in genetic equilibrium.
So if it's hypothetical, does it have any practical use?
It has immense practical value. First, it serves as a baseline या null hypothesis. एक real population को Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium से compare करके हम देख सकते हैं कि कौन सी evolutionary forces at play हैं.
Okay.
Second, it allows us to calculate the frequency of carriers for recessive diseases. For example, अगर हमें पता है कि L-captonuria 1 in a million लोगों को affect करता है, हम Hardy-Weinberg equation से calculate कर सकते हैं कि carrier frequency about 1 in 500 है.
That's powerful. Any other uses?
Yes, it can help trace prehistoric migration routes by studying gene frequencies of systems like the ABO blood groups across different continents. और fourth, it scientifically debunks myths of racial superiority, क्योंकि मॉडल शो करता है कि जीन फ्लो और म्यूटेशन इंश्योर करते हैं कि कोई भी पॉपुलेशन जेनेटिकली प्योर नहीं हो सकती. So, time for questions. First and most obvious one, why don't we see Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium in real-life populations? Because the real world is not an ideal world. हर real population में evolutionary forces हमेशा काम कर रही हैं.
Right.
Mutation spontaneously होते हैं. Natural selection कुछ traits को favor करता है. Individuals populations के बीच migrate करते हैं. Gene flow, random chance affect करता है कि कौन से genes pass on होंगे. Genetic drift और mating rarely completely random होता है.
All these factors constantly disturb the equilibrium.
Constantly.
How is calculating carrier frequency useful for an average person?
It's incredibly important for genetic counseling. अगर एक कपल ऐसी पॉपुलेशन से आता है जहां एक सर्टेन रिसेसिव डिजीज कॉमन है, कैरियर फ्रीक्वेंसी जानने से उनका रिस्क असेस करने में हेल्प मिलती है.
Okay.
अगर वो दोनों टेस्ट करवाते हैं और पता चलता है कि वो कैरियर्स हैं, they can make informed decisions about family planning.
You mentioned genetic drift. Can you explain that a bit more? How does it affect the equilibrium?
Genetic drift is a change in gene frequencies due to random chance. Imagine a small population of insects जहां just by chance सिर्फ red वाले reproduce करते हैं, green वाले नहीं. The next generation will have a much higher frequency of the red allele. ये इफेक्ट स्मॉल पॉपुलेशंस में सबसे पावरफुल होता है और जीन पूल में अनप्रिडिक्टेबल रैंडम चेंजेस ला सकता है, पुशिंग इट अवे फ्रॉम इक्विलिब्रियम.
And what's an example of non-random mating?
A common one is assortative mating, जहां individuals अपने जैसे traits वाले partners choose करते हैं, like height or intelligence.
Okay.
Another important example is inbreeding, यानी close relatives के बीच marriage, जो कुछ cultures में common है. ये जीन पूल में allele frequencies को change नहीं करता, पर ये homozygous genotypes का proportion बढ़ा देता है, जिससे recessive diseases more common हो सकती हैं.
Okay, final one. The source mentions population genetics raises ethical questions. Can you give an example?
A classic one is this. Should modern medicine treat a person with a serious genetic disorder like hemophilia, allowing them to live a normal life and have children? That's a tough one. By doing so, हम ensure कर रहे हैं कि faulty allele next generation में pass on हो, increasing the genetic burden on the population's gene pool. These are incredibly complex ethical debates with no easy answers.
The Hardy-Weinberg principle describes a state of genetic equilibrium in the absence of evolutionary forces.
Population genetics uses mathematical models to understand how and why the genetic makeup of entire populations changes over time. From math and populations, let's turn to a more physical and serious topic, radiation.
Indeed. This takes us to the field of radiation genetics.
Radiation genetics?
This field studies the effects of radiation on our genes. We are talking about ionizing radiations like X-rays, gamma rays, alpha particles, and neutrons.
Okay.
ये नेचुरल सोर्सेज से आ सकती हैं, जैसे कॉस्मिक रेज फ्रॉम स्पेस, या आर्टिफिशियल सोर्सेज जैसे मेडिकल प्रोसीजर्स और न्यूक्लियर एक्सीडेंट्स.
The pioneer in this field was H.J. Muller, right?
Yes.
What did he discover?
Yes, H.J. Muller was a key figure. 1927 में he used the fruit fly, Drosophila, to demonstrate that उन्हें X-rays से एक्सपोज करने पर उनके ऑफस्प्रिंग में म्यूटेशंस का नंबर ड्रामेटिकली बढ़ जाता है.
So he proved that radiation is mutagenic.
हाँ, it directly damages genes. For this groundbreaking work, जिसके public health and safety के लिए huge implications थे, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1946.
And what kind of effects does radiation have on us?
Broadly, दो तरह के effects होते हैं. First, there are somatic effects. ये exposed individual के body cells को affect करते हैं.
Okay.
For example, जापान में atomic bomb के survivors को radiation sickness हुई और बाद में उनमें leukemia के rates बढ़ गए. These effects are tragic, but they are not passed on to their children.
And the second type?
The second type is genetic effects. ये वो हैं जो sex cells को damage करते हैं, the sperm और eggs. ये mutations future generations में pass on हो सकते हैं.
That's the scary part.
हाँ, the scary part is कि ये effects शायद कई generations तक ना दिखें, making them very difficult to study. इस लॉन्ग टर्म रिस्क की वजह से बॉडीज लाइक द इंटरनेशनल कमीशन ऑफ रेडियोलॉजिकल प्रोटेक्शन ICRP रेडिएशन वर्कर्स के लिए एक मैक्सिमम परमिसिबल डोज सेट करती हैं, which is 50 MSV per year.
Okay, let's clarify a few things. First, what is the main simple difference between somatic and genetic effects?
The simplest way to think about it is this. Somatic effects आपको हार्म करते हैं. Genetic effects आपके descendants को हार्म करते हैं.
Right.
A somatic mutation is a change in the blueprint of your own body cells. A genetic mutation is a change in the blueprint that you pass down to your children.
Is all radiation harmful? Should I be worried about getting a dental X-ray?
Not necessarily. The key is the dose. हम सब constantly low levels of natural background radiation से expose होते हैं. Medical procedures जैसे X-rays के लिए dose बहुत low और carefully controlled होता है.
Okay.
The benefits of diagnosing a medical problem almost always far outweigh the minimal risk from the radiation. Higher doses, however, are definitely harmful.
How exactly does radiation cause a mutation in DNA?
It can happen in two main ways. High energy radiation DNA molecule पर direct hit कर सकती है, physically उसके chemical bonds को तोड़कर,
And the other way?
or it can cause an indirect hit by striking a nearby water molecule, creating highly reactive particles called free radicals जो फिर DNA को attack और damage करते हैं. This damage can change the base pairs or even cause breaks in the chromosome structure.
How did the ICRP decide on the 50 MSV per year limit? Why that specific number?
That limit is based on decades of extensive research on radiation survivors and animal studies. It's not a perfectly safe limit, but rather a level of acceptable risk.
So it's a balance.
It's a balance, a point where the risk of harmful effects is considered to be very low, especially for people who need to work with radiation as part of their job.
If genetic effects don't show up for many generations, how can we possibly study them in humans?
That is a massive challenge. इसीलिए हमारी ज्यादातर डायरेक्ट नॉलेज एनिमल मॉडल से आती है, जैसे माइस एंड फ्रूट फ्लाइज जिनके जनरेशन टाइम्स बहुत शॉर्ट होते हैं.
And in humans?
In humans, scientists rely on large-scale, long-term epidemiological studies. For example, by carefully monitoring the health of the descendants of atomic bomb survivors over many decades to identify any statistical trends. Time to practice. H. J. Muller proved that X-rays are mutagenic, causing heritable changes in genes.
Radiation genetics studies the damaging effects of radiation on DNA, which can have serious consequences for both the exposed individual and their future generations.
We've talked about how genes can be damaged by external forces like radiation. But what about more common environmental factors, like the food we eat or the air we breathe?
That's the perfect transition to our next topic.
Ecogenetics?
ये term Brewer ने 1971 में coin किया था. It studies the genetically determined differences in our susceptibility to environmental agents.
Basically, it's the science of why the same environment affects different people differently.
बिल्कुल, it's all about the interaction between our genes and our environment.
So this is the nature meets nurture field of genetics.
Exactly. Let's look at some examples. Foods के केस में हमने पहले ही G6PD deficiency वाले लोगों की बात की जो fava beans खाकर बीमार हो सकते हैं.
Right?
A more common example is lactose intolerance. कुछ लोगों में एक जीन होता है जो लैक्टेज एंजाइम को अडल्टहुड तक एक्टिव रखता है, so they can digest milk. Others don't, और उनके लिए मिल्क digestive problems cause करता है.
What about things we inhale?
A classic example is alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. इस जेनेटिक कंडीशन वाले लोग डस्ट या सिगरेट स्मोक इनहेल करने से एम्फीसीमा डेवलप करने के लिए हाईली ससेप्टेबल होते हैं.
Okay.
Their lungs lack a key protective protein. In the case of infections, we are learning कि कुछ लोगों का genetic makeup उन्हें certain infections के बाद डायबिटीज या स्पॉन्डिलाइटिस जैसे complications develop करने के लिए ज्यादा susceptible बनाता है.
So does this mean our genes predetermine which diseases we will get?
Not entirely, and this is a crucial point. आपके genes आपको susceptible बना सकते हैं, but environment अक्सर trigger का काम करता है.
Okay.
For example, आपके पास lung cancer के लिए higher risk वाले genes हो सकते हैं, but if you never smoke, your overall risk remains very low. It's almost always nature and nurture working together.
You mentioned lactose intolerance. Is that really a disease or a genetic defect?
Population today, adult होकर lactose intolerant होना normal state है.
Oh, really?
हाँ, the ability to digest milk after infancy या lactase persistence is actually a relatively recent genetic mutation जो उन populations में फैली जिन्होंने cattle को domesticate किया और dairy farming पर rely किया.
How does alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency lead to emphysema? What's the mechanism?
Alpha-1 antitrypsin एक प्रोटीन है जो lungs को inflammation से होने वाले डैमेज से बचाता है. जब आप स्मोक जैसे irritants inhale करते हैं तो आपके lungs में एक natural inflammatory response होता है.
Right.
रेफरी की तरह उस inflammation को control में रखता है. In people with the deficiency, there's no referee. The inflammation goes uncontrolled और delicate lung tissue को destroy करना शुरू कर देती है, leading to emphysema.
Why is this idea of gene-environment interaction so important for modern medicine?
Because it shifts the focus towards preventive healthcare. अगर हमें genetic screening से पता है कि एक person एक certain condition के लिए highly susceptible है, तो हम उन्हें environmental triggers को avoid करने के लिए specific personalized advice दे सकते हैं.
So it's about knowing your blueprint.
Exactly. So you can build the safest possible life around it.
So ecogenetics could actually help us with our daily life choices.
Absolutely. For example, कुछ लोग genetically salt sensitive होते हैं. मतलब उनका blood pressure salt intake से बहुत affect होता है. अगर आपको पता है कि आप इस ग्रुप में हैं, तो हाइपरटेंशन प्रिवेंट करने के लिए लो सॉल्ट डाइट मेंटेन करना आपके लिए एक्सेप्शनली इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है.
It's knowledge that empowers you to take control.
बिल्कुल.
Let's practice this one. Ecogenetics studies how genetic differences affect our susceptibility to environmental agents.
Ecogenetics explains why our unique genetic makeup means we react differently to the same foods, chemicals, and infections we encounter every day.
Before we dive into the DNA molecule itself, let's take a quick but important detour to talk about an animal that has become a superstar in genetics research.
Yes, a tiny fish that has taught us so much.
Zebrafish genetics.
The zebrafish, or Danio ririo, has become a powerhouse model organism, especially in developmental genetics.
Was zebrafishy क्यों? What's so special about this particular fish?
Several things. They're small and reproduce very quickly. But the most important feature is that their embryos are transparent.
Transparent.
Huh. This allows scientists to literally watch development happen in real time under a microscope. You can see organs forming, cells migrating, everything. Plus, it's relatively easy to induce and study embryonic lethal mutations in them.
What exactly is an embryonic lethal mutation?
It's a mutation in a gene that is so critical for development कि embryo उसके बिना survive नहीं कर सकता.
Okay.
By studying what goes wrong in these embryos, हम उस gene का essential function figure out कर सकते हैं. It's like trying to understand how a car works by removing one part at a time and seeing what breaks.
How similar is zebrafish genetics to human genetics?
Surprisingly similar. About 70% of human genes have a counterpart in the zebrafish.
70%?
Huh. This means we can study many human genetic diseases in these fish and gain valuable insights.
Has this led to any practical benefits for us?
Yes, many. Zebrafish models are being used to study diseases like muscular dystrophy, Alzheimer's, and various types of cancer. They are also widely used for drug screening, testing the effectiveness and toxicity of new medicines quickly and efficiently.
What's the single biggest advantage of the transparent embryo?
It allows for direct observation of dynamic biological processes. आप literally एक blood vessel को grow होते हुए देख सकते हैं या देख सकते हैं कि एक cancer cell एक living organism के अंदर कैसे behave करता है.
Wow.
This is something you can't do in non-transparent model organisms like mice. It provides a living window into development and disease.
And I'm guessing they are easy to maintain in a lab?
बिल्कुल. They live in small tanks, eat simple food, और एक single pair हर हफ्ते hundreds of offspring produce कर सकता है. This makes large-scale genetic experiments very practical and cost-effective. Practice this phrase. The zebrafish is a key model organism in developmental genetics due to its rapid and transparent embryonic development.
The zebrafish provides a powerful, living window into the fundamental genetic processes that guide early development.
Okay, we've explored the different fields. Now it's time to dive into the core of it all, the blueprint itself.
Let's get to the heart of the matter.
Genetic material of man. It all starts with the central dogma of molecular biology, which states that the flow of genetic information is unidirectional. DNA makes mRNA, and mRNA makes protein.
This is the fundamental process of life.
Yes.
And the hero of this story is DNA. In 1953, J.D. Watson and F.H. Crick proposed the double helix model for DNA. This beautiful structure immediately explained three key mysteries of life.
How information is stored and passed on.
Exactly.
How it's used to build proteins.
Exactly.
And how it's copied.
Exactly.
The structure is like a twisted ladder. The two long chains are made of sugar and phosphate, and the rungs are made of 4 chemical bases: adenine A, thymine T, guanine G, and cytosine C.
And the key is the base pairing rule.
Bilkul. A always pairs with T, and G always pairs with C. These pairs are held together by hydrogen bonds.
So how does this ladder copy itself?
Through a process called semi-conservative replication. The ladder unzips down the middle, separating the two strands.
Okay.
Each old strand then serves as a template to build a new complementary strand. So each new DNA molecule consists of one old strand and one new strand. It's an elegant and incredibly accurate copying mechanism.
The human genome is huge, about 3 billion base pairs. How is all this information organized?
It's not all genes. A large portion is repetitive DNA. Some, like VNTRs, are highly repetitive and are the basis for DNA profiling. Others are interspersed, like the ALU family.
Okay.
Only a small fraction is single copy DNA, which contains most of our actual protein coding genes. और हमारे genes के अंदर भी, the coding sequences called exons are often interrupted by non-coding sequences called introns, which are spliced out before a protein is made.
How does almost 2 meters of DNA fit inside a microscopic cell nucleus?
Through a remarkable system of packaging. The DNA is wrapped around proteins called histones, forming a structure that looks like beads on a string.
Beads on a string? This is the fundamental unit called a nucleosome. This string of chromatin is then further coiled and condensed until, during cell division, it becomes visible as chromosomes. We have 46 of them, 22 pairs of autosomes, and 1 pair of sex chromosomes. Okay, so many important concepts here. Let's ask some questions. Why was the Watson-Crick model so revolutionary?
Because for the first time, it provided a physical structure that could explain heredity. The AT and GC pairing rule immediately suggested a mechanism for perfect replication.
Right.
And the sequence of the bases along the strand suggested a way to store vast amounts of information, like a code. It turned genetics from an abstract concept into a physical, chemical reality.
What is the function of introns? If they are non-coding, why do we even have them?
That's one of the big questions in genetics. A leading theory is that they allow for alternative splicing.
Alternative splicing.
हाँ, इसका मतलब है कि एक सिंगल जीन को अलग-अलग तरीके से स्प्लाइस करके मल्टीपल डिफरेंट प्रोटीन्स बनाए जा सकते हैं. This dramatically increases the versatility of our genome, allowing a small number of genes to produce a huge variety of proteins.
What's the main advantage of packaging DNA into nucleosomes?
There are two main advantages. The obvious one is compaction. It allows the massive DNA molecule to be neatly packed into the tiny nucleus.
And the second one?
The second, more subtle advantage is gene regulation. जब DNA tightly wound होता है histones के around, उस region के genes generally switched off or inaccessible होते हैं.
Okay.
Unwinding the DNA makes the genes available for use. So packaging is also a control mechanism.
The genetic code has 64 possible codons, but there are only 20 amino acids.
What happens to the extra codons?
This is called the degeneracy of the code. इसका मतलब है कि most amino acids are specified by more than one codon.
So it's like a buffer.
Exactly. It acts as a buffer against mutations. A small change in the DNA might still code for the same amino acid. Additionally, 3 of the 64 codons act as stop signals, telling the cell's machinery when to terminate protein synthesis.
The outline mentions the operon concept. What is that, simply?
The operon concept was proposed by Jacob and Monod to explain how genes are regulated in bacteria. An operon is a cluster of genes that are controlled by a single on-off switch.
Okay.
It consists of the protein-making genes, structural genes, and the control segments, promoter and operator. It's a very efficient way for bacteria to turn on a whole set of genes only when they are needed. Let's practice the most central idea. The central dogma of molecular biology is DNA makes RNA and RNA makes protein.
Our genetic material, DNA, is an elegantly designed double helix, masterfully packaged into chromosomes, that carries the entire code for life in a language of 3-letter words.
Now that we understand the blueprint, let's look at the rules and phenomena of how it's passed on and expressed.
Yes, let's explore the principles of heredity and variation.
Genetic phenomena. First, let's discuss two important but often confused concepts: penetrance and expressivity.
Penetrance and expressivity.
Penetrance is the percentage frequency with which a gene actually shows its effect. अगर एक जीन की 80% penetrance है, तो इसका मतलब है कि 100 लोगों में जिनके पास वो जीन है, सिर्फ 80 में ही वो trait express होगा.
Okay.
Expressivity, on the other hand, refers to the variation in that expression. So, उन 80 लोगों में symptoms बहुत mild से बहुत severe तक हो सकते हैं.
So, penetrance is like an on-off switch and expressivity is like a dimmer switch.
Perfect analogy. Next up are linkage and crossing over. Genes जो same chromosome पर located होते हैं, वो एक साथ inherit होते हैं. This is called linkage.
Right.
But this linkage is not absolute. Because during meiosis, homologous chromosomes segments exchange कर सकते हैं. This process is called crossing over. It breaks the linkage and creates new combinations of genes.
And then there's mutation.
Mutation is simply a heritable change in the genetic material. ये एक छोटा point mutation हो सकता है, affecting just one base pair, या एक बड़ा change affecting the structure of a chromosome.
And it can be spontaneous or induced.
हाँ, most mutations harmful होते हैं, but very rarely a mutation can be advantageous and provide the raw material for evolution. The sources mention something different: plasma genes and cytoplasmic inheritance.
Right.
हमारा सारा genetic material nucleus में नहीं होता. कुछ self-replicating units cytoplasm में present होते हैं, called plasma genes.
Okay.
The best example is mitochondria, the powerhouses of our cells, जिनके पास अपना छोटा circular DNA होता है. This mitochondrial DNA is inherited exclusively from the mother through the cytoplasm of the egg cell.
And how is sex determined in humans?
In humans, it's determined by the XXXY system. Females have 2 X chromosomes, XX, and males have 1 X and 1 Y chromosome, XY.
So the Y chromosome is key?
The presence of the Y chromosome is the primary determinant of maleness. इसीलिए एक XXY combination वाला individual male होता है, while an individual with only 1 X XO is female.
This leads us to?
Sex-linked inheritance.
Exactly.
These are traits जिनके genes sex chromosomes पर carry होते हैं. The classic examples are hemophilia and red-green color blindness.
Okay.
Both are X-linked recessive conditions. इसकी वजह से एक father इन traits को अपने sons को pass नहीं कर सकता, since he gives them his Y chromosome, but he will pass the faulty gene to all his daughters, making them carriers.
Okay. Question time. What is the evolutionary significance of crossing over? Why is it so important?
Crossing over is the main engine of genetic recombination in sexually reproducing organisms. It shuffles the parental genes to create new combinations in the offspring.
Right.
This massive increase in variation is crucial for evolution as it gives natural selection a wider range of traits to act upon.
If mitochondria have their own DNA, why do we only inherit it from our mothers?
Because during fertilization, the large egg cell contributes all of the cytoplasm, which contains the mitochondria, to the resulting zygote.
And the sperm?
The much smaller sperm essentially contributes only its nucleus. उसके अपने mitochondria जो उसकी tail में होते हैं पीछे रह जाते हैं और egg में enter नहीं करते.
Why is hemophilia so much more common in boys than in girls?
Because it is an X-linked recessive condition. Boys के पास सिर्फ एक X क्रोमोसोम होता है. अगर उस सिंगल X पर फॉल्टी जीन है तो उन्हें डिजीज होगी.
Okay.
गर्ल्स के पास 2 X क्रोमोसोम्स होते हैं. उन्हें डिजीज होने के लिए उन्हें दोनों X क्रोमोसोम्स पर फॉल्टी जीन इनहेरिट करना पड़ेगा, which is a much rarer event.
You said most mutations are harmful. Why isn't mutation always a bad thing?
Because without mutation there would be no evolution. All new genetic variation ultimately arises from mutation.
So it's the source of novelty.
हाँ, while the vast majority might be harmful or neutral, that one rare beneficial mutation can give an individual a survival advantage, which can then spread through the population over generations.
What's a simple way to remember the difference between penetrance and expressivity? Penetrance asks the question, does the trait show up? Yes or no? Expressivity asks the question, if it shows up, how much does it show up? Presence versus degree. Got it.
एक presence absence के बारे में है, दूसरा degree के बारे में. Let's practice this one. Crossing over breaks gene linkage and creates genetic recombination.
Genetic phenomena like penetrance, linkage, and mutation are the complex rules that govern how traits are inherited and how new variation is constantly generated.
Okay, we know the rules. Now let's look at the incredible tools that scientists use to read and manipulate the blueprint.
This is where genetics becomes technology.
आइडिया इज कि अगर आप डीएनए के दो स्ट्रैंड्स को सेपरेट करते हैं वो नेचुरली अपने कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री पार्टनर्स के साथ रीएसोसिएट या हाइब्रिडाइज करेंगे।
Okay?
हम एक लेबल्ड नोन सीक्वेंस ऑफ डीएनए जिसे प्रोब कहते हैं उसे यूज कर सकते हैं टू हंट फॉर एंड स्टिक टू अ स्पेसिफिक जीन वी आर लुकिंग फॉर इन अ कॉम्प्लेक्स सैंपल.
Then we have the famous blotting techniques.
Yes, southern blotting is used to identify a specific DNA fragment. DNA को एंजाइम से काटा जाता है, साइज के हिसाब से सेपरेट किया जाता है, एक फिल्टर पे ट्रांसफर किया जाता है और फिर एक प्रोब यूज किया जाता है टू फाइंड द पीस यू आर लुकिंग फॉर.
And northern is for RNA, western is for proteins.
बिल्कुल. And the one we've all heard of in crime shows, PCR, the polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, is a game changer. It's a powerful technique to massively amplify a tiny specific segment of DNA, making millions or billions of copies from just a single starting molecule.
Wow.
It relies on a heat-stable enzyme called Taq polymerase.
How do scientists cut and paste DNA?
The scissors of genetic engineering are restriction enzymes. हर एक एंजाइम एक स्पेसिफिक डीएनए सीक्वेंस को पहचानता है और वहीं पर काटता है.
And the glue?
The glue is an enzyme called DNA ligase, जो डीएनए फ्रैगमेंट्स को एक साथ जोड़ सकता है.
And how do they make many copies of a pasted gene?
For that, they use cloning vectors. These are molecular vehicles, जैसे small circular DNA molecules called plasmids, जो एक foreign DNA segment को एक host cell, जैसे bacterium, में carry कर सकते हैं and use the cell's machinery to replicate it.
Okay.
Collection of all the DNA fragments from an organism stored in these vectors is called a DNA library. And with DNA sequencing, we can determine the exact nucleotide sequence of any DNA fragment.
This all leads to the field of DNA profiling.
Yes, originally developed by Alec Jeffreys, today we use the single locus probe SLP method, which is a standard in forensic science.
And by combining results.
By combining the results from several of these tests, we can generate a genetic profile that is virtually unique to an individual.
Time for questions. PCR and DNA cloning both amplify DNA. What is the basic difference between them?
PCR is an in vitro technique, matlab it happens in a test tube. It's incredibly fast and can make billions of copies in a few hours.
And cloning?
Cloning is an in vivo technique, happening inside a living cell. आप DNA को एक vector में insert करके बैक्टीरिया में grow करते हैं. It's slower, but it produces large quantities of very pure DNA and is better for larger DNA fragments.
Southern, northern, western blotting. Why the strange names?
Southern blotting is named after its inventor, Edwin Southern. उसके बाद दूसरे names एक scientific joke की तरह create किए गए.
A joke.
हाँ. Since Southern was a direction, they named the RNA technique Northern or the protein technique Western. There was no Mr. Northern or Mr. Western.
How do restriction enzymes know exactly where to cut the DNA?
हर restriction enzyme एक बहुत specific short DNA sequence को recognize करता है, which is often a palindrome. वो opposite strands पर आगे और पीछे से same पढ़ा जाता है.
Okay.
The enzyme's 3D structure उस DNA sequence के unique shape पर perfectly fit होता है, जैसे एक specific lock में एक key, और वो सिर्फ उसी साइट पर काटता है.
Why is DNA profiling considered so reliable in forensics?
Because it focuses on regions of our DNA, called VNTRs, that are highly variable between individuals. The chance of two unrelated people having the exact same pattern in one of these regions is low.
Right.
By comparing multiple different regions, the probability of a coincidental match becomes astronomically small, often less than 1 in a billion, making it an incredibly powerful tool for identification.
With all this cutting and pasting, what are some of the ethical concerns around genetic engineering?
There are many. What are the long-term environmental impacts of releasing genetically modified organisms, GMOs? Should we use this technology to create designer babies with enhanced traits? How do we prevent the misuse of powerful gene editing technologies like CRISPR? It's a very important and ongoing conversation between science and society. Let's practice the big one. PCR, or polymerase chain reaction, is a technique to amplify a specific segment of DNA.
Modern generic tools give us the incredible power to read, cut, paste, copy, and analyze DNA with a precision that was once unimaginable.
And for our final topic, let's go back to the very beginning, the cell itself, and how it divides to create and sustain life.
The foundation of it all.
Right. The cell and cell division.
The cell is the smallest unit of life that can represent all of its vital phenomena. And for life to continue, cells must divide. This happens in two main ways.
The first is mitosis, right?
Correct.
Mitosis is the division of our body cells, or somatic cells. It's a single cycle of division that occurs in 4 main stages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. And the end result?
The end result is 2 daughter cells that are genetically identical to the parent cell. It's essentially a process of cellular cloning.
And the second type is meiosis.
Yes, meiosis happens only in our germ cells, the cells that produce sperm and eggs. This is a more complex process with 2 stages of division.
Okay.
The first, meiosis I, is the reduction division. यहाँ homologous chromosomes pair up, crossing over होता है और cell divide होता है, resulting in 2 cells with half the number of chromosomes as the parent cell.
And what happens after that?
After that comes meiosis II, which is essentially a simple mitotic division. इस स्टेज में हर क्रोमोसोम के सिस्टर क्रोमेटिड सेपरेट हो जाते हैं, just like in mitosis.
And the final result?
The final result of the entire process is 4 haploid cells, each of which is genetically unique.
Okay, so let's clarify. What is the main purpose of mitosis?
Growth, repair and asexual reproduction. जब आपको चोट लगती है, आपकी नई स्किन सेल्स माइटोसिस से बनती हैं. आप एक बेबी से अडल्ट तक ट्रिलियंस ऑफ राउंड्स ऑफ माइटोसिस से ग्रो हुए. It's for making more of the same.
And the main purpose of meiosis?
सेक्सुअल रिप्रोडक्शन. इसका पहला काम है क्रोमोसोम नंबर को आधा करना, ताकि जब स्पर्म और एग फ्यूज हों तो रिजल्टिंग जाइगोट में करेक्ट फुल नंबर ऑफ क्रोमोसोम्स हों.
And the second job?
Its second equally important job is to create genetic variation through crossing over and the independent assortment of chromosomes.
What is the single biggest difference between the first stage of mitosis, prophase, and the first stage of meiosis, prophase 1?
The key event in prophase I of meiosis is कि homologous chromosomes pair up in a process called synapsis और फिर वो genetic material exchange करते हैं, they perform crossing over.
And this doesn't happen in mitosis.
This does not happen in the prophase of mitosis. This pairing and exchange is the most critical and unique step of meiosis.
What happens differently in anaphase in the two processes?
In the anaphase of mitosis, sister chromatids को अलग किया जाता है. In anaphase 1 of meiosis, homologous chromosomes को अलग किया जाता है. The sister chromatids stay together.
Right.
It's only in anaphase 2 of meiosis that the sister chromatids finally separate, similar to mitosis.
What can happen if a mistake occurs during meiosis?
If chromosomes properly separate नहीं होते, a mistake called non-disjunction, it can lead to gametes, sperm or eggs with the wrong number of chromosomes.
And if that gamete is used in fertilization?
हाँ, it can result in genetic conditions like Down syndrome, which is caused by an extra copy of chromosome 21, trisomy 21. Practice this key distinction. Mitosis creates 2 identical diploid cells, while meiosis creates 4 unique haploid cells.
Mitosis is for growth and repair, creating cellular clones, while meiosis is for reproduction, shuffling the genetic deck to create diversity.
Wow! What a journey! हमने ह्यूमन जेनेटिक्स की अलग-अलग गलियों में घूमकर देखा कि हमारी लाइफ का ब्लूप्रिंट कितना कॉम्प्लेक्स और फैसिनेटिंग है.
We've seen how a single genetic typo can cause a disease, how unique our immune system's code is, and how modern technology gives us the power to read and understand our own genes. चलो, एक quick recap करते हैं. The broad theme was understanding the blueprint of life, a deep dive into human genetics. And here's what we covered. First, we explored the branches of genetics, seeing how genes control our body chemistry, biochemical, our immunity, immuno, our development from a single cell, and even our response to drugs, pharmaco.
Then we dove into the genetic material itself, DNA. हमने उसके डबल हेलिक्स स्ट्रक्चर, उसकी इनक्रेडिबल पैकेजिंग और अ 3-letter कोड को समझा जिससे वो लाइफ के इंस्ट्रक्शंस लिखता है.
After that, we looked at genetic phenomena, the rules of inheritance like sex linkage and crossing over, which is the engine that generates variation.
We then learned about the powerful tools that have revolutionized genetics, जैसे PCR जो एक सिंगल सेल से DNA एम्प्लीफाई कर सकता है और DNA प्रोफाइलिंग जो फोरेंसिक्स में यूज होता है.
And finally, we understood cell division, mitosis for growth, and meiosis for reproduction, the processes that ensure the continuation of life.
बिल्कुल.
अब इसमें थोड़ा सोचिए. Here are a few questions for you to think about and maybe present to a friend.
Okay, fire away.
1. How would you explain the one gene, one enzyme hypothesis in your own words using an analogy? 2. The diversity of the HLA system is a challenge for organ transplants, but why is it a huge advantage for the survival of our species? 3. How does pharmacogenetics make personalized medicine a reality? Give one clear example.
Good ones. More?
4. Why is the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium almost never found in real populations? Name 2 forces that constantly disturb it. 5. What is the basic difference between amplifying DNA with PCR versus cloning it in bacteria? 6. If a disease is X-linked recessive, why are boys affected far more often than girls?
Awesome questions. और अब आपके लिए एक छोटा सा fun challenge.
I'm listening.
Try to explain the double helix structure of DNA to a friend or family member in just 60 seconds, using only your words and hand gestures, no pictures allowed. देखते हैं आप कर पाते हैं या नहीं.
That's a good one.
इस amazing deep dive का हिस्सा बनने के लिए thank you so much. अगर आपको मजा आया और आपने कुछ नया सीखा तो हमें कमेंट करके जरूर बताना.
Your questions and your curiosity are what drive this. और हाँ, इस नॉलेज को आगे बढ़ाओ, अपने दोस्तों के साथ शेयर करो.
सब्सक्राइब करना, लाइक करना और नोटिफिकेशन बेल ऑन करना बिल्कुल मत भूलना. अगली बार मिलेंगे एक और एक्साइटिंग टॉपिक के साथ. तब तक कीप लर्निंग एंड स्टे क्यूरियस.